What's going on, y'all? Welcome to MMA Bros. I'm Nate,
I'm Elijah.
and today we're going to be discussing UFC Fight Night, Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas. For the first fight, we got Mick Parkin versus Muhammad Usman. And man, this fight is like, no disrespect to Mick Parkin, but he's not really too spectacular. A lot of his fights, I believe, most of his first couple wins in his professional record were from guys with negative records, and they weren't really all that impressive either. He has power, don't get me wrong, but he's super slow, and I believe the way the heavyweight division is right now, usually the more athletic, the more, he puts the pressure, those guys usually win against the big chubby dudes. No offense to him, but I think Muhammad Usman got this one.
Yeah, and another thing, kind of like what you were saying, like Muhammad Usman is ripped. He's a big buff dude.
He's a big dude.
And usually when you're ripped and buff like that at heavyweight, you're taking your career seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you see the other kind of fatter guys, the blob guys, let's be real here. They're not taking their career as seriously as a guy like Muhammad Usman.
There's more discipline.
Yeah.
So I got to give it to him. Plus, he's Kamaru's brother. There's a few. I believe it was his last fight. He didn't look as impressive, but if he's anything like his brother, he's going to gain knowledge and get better from that fight on.
Yeah, and he's strong, he's athletic, and he's really young. So.
Yeah, for sure. In the next fight here, we got Igor Servino versus Andre Lima.
Igor Severino, he's more of a good grappler, is what I've seen out of his career. He has really good submissions, good jiu-jitsu, but to me, his striking doesn't seem like anything too special. But Andre Lima, on the other hand, he has a lot of wins by KO. He has pretty fast hands, and he has actually really good striking, and he's pretty all around. So based off of what I've seen in Andre Lima's skills, I gotta go with him. I think he's gonna. I say he'll knock him out in the third round.
Yeah, I could see that happening. And I mean, but if it does get to the ground, it's a good possibility he could just hold him out, and it could also go to decision because he's a decent grappler, pretty decent jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But like these are what these fights are for. It's like just to see what they can do. And honestly, I'm not the most excited about it, but who knows? They can really definitely prove us wrong. Next fight up on the card, we got Montserrat Rendon versus Daria Zeleniakova. I believe it's not a good pronunciation. I'm trying here, but honestly, what I noticed in between these two girls, Rendon, she's not a high paced fighter. She's slow paced. Like most of her wins, I believe all of her wins, her professional record, are decision. So she likes to get late and tire the person out and really just put the pressure on them towards the end of the fight. But the issue is that most of her grappling is just against the cage. There's not too many instances where she's on top of them. And on the other hand, we got Daria. Man, she looks powerful. She looks fast, and she honestly has some really good jabs and hooks. So I think that if it gets to like a standing bang and she forces Rendon to like square off with her, I think she could probably catch her and actually knock her out early in the fight because Rendon she looks a little bit slower pace. So if Daria puts that pressure and forces into a bang match, it's gonna be lights out for Rendon, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you on that 100%. Next fight up the card, we got Jarno Aarons versus Stephen Nguyen, and this fight to me is a toss-up. It's hard to decide who I'm gonna go with, but to describe Jarno, he's a pretty kick-heavy striker. He likes to strike a lot, but he hasn't gotten any finishes in a long time. He lost his last two fights, and he also lost to Sungwoo Choi, and Sungwoo Choi, in my opinion, just isn't that good. So I don't think that's really a good look. And Sungwoo Choi was on a 3-fight losing streak before beating him. Nguyen, on the other hand, he has decent hands. He has good power, and he's a good grappler. He has a higher finishing rate than Jarno Aarons. So I'm going to go with Stephen Nguyen. I'll say unanimous decision.
Oh, that's an understandable pick, but I think I'm gonna go on the opposite end because I've seen Jarno. I think that if he's able and he was able to, because I see the potential in him. I think that if he was able to start out a little faster and be like, sometimes it seems like he's not as confident in his strikes. I might be wrong on that. He could be the most confident dude in the world, but sometimes when he throws strikes, he doesn't just fully commit. So if he was to commit and really get in there and get in his face, I think he could probably either finish this dude or really tire this guy out, because he's been later in the rounds. I think he's had a couple decisions, but majority of his fights are finishes, and I can see him stepping it up for sure.
Yeah.
Next fight we got Miles John versus Cody Gibson. And man, I actually really like Cody Gibson. And I hate to say this before I even break down them, but I really feel like Miles John has some power advantage over him. Granted, Cody, he's a veteran. He's been in the UFC before. He got kicked off eventually. He was on like a losing streak, I believe. But then he came back from the Ultimate Fighter, and he looked really good in Ultimate Fighter. His grappling, his stand up, he's pretty all around. And honestly, if it gets later on, I really do believe Cody has a huge advantage. It might even submit dude, but Miles John is strong. His defense when it comes to grappling isn't the greatest, so that's why I can see it if it gets later that Cody can take it. But Miles John has power in them first 2 rounds, and he's going to be really quick. He's going to be on him, and I don't know if Cody's chin has been tested with that kind of power. Like, I've seen him take some shots, but dude's strong on what I've seen from him.
Yeah, and Miles Johns has a lot better boxing than
for sure
than Cody Gibson. I like Miles Johns. I like Miles Johns a lot. He's very skilled. He's fun to watch, and he's very powerful. But Cody Gibson is going to have a huge height advantage, a huge reach advantage, and I think I'm going with Cody Gibson because I think, like you said, he's a vet. He's really crafty. He's like a crafty vet, and I think he's going to be able to use his reach, jab him up, use his kicks because he uses a lot of kicks. I think he's going to be able to utilize those kicks at range, utilize his jab, and close the distance at certain moments, get Miles Johns up against the cage, and just make it dirty, clinch up with him, and just make it a dirty up against the cage type of fight. Take him down here and there, and I think he's going to tire him out. And just use his crafty veteran experience and win over 3 rounds.
Yeah, I think that's fair too. Next fight out, we got Ricardo Ramos versus Julian Erosa. And honestly, in this one, Ramos looks like a prospect coming up. In my opinion, I really do believe that if he keeps working on his stand-up, he got like 2 spinning elbow knockouts already in his young career. So like he can stand and he can knock you out. But I feel like he crisp up his boxing a little bit more. He can definitely be in the top 10, top 15 really soon. And Julian Erosa, I didn't really hear about him before seeing this fight, but he's also he hasn't been as impressive. The past couple fights I did see, even in his amateur career, he went to a split decision with Steven Peterson, I believe. And the dude has a horrible record. So I'm not trying to compare because every fight's different. But if you're going based off of that specific fight, he just doesn't look like he's going to be able to handle Ramos, and especially with the stand up. And then if he gets on his back, he's choking him out 100%.
And it comes back to Song Woo Choi again.
Yeah, it's
Song Woo Choi knocked out Julian Erosa. And I hate to trash Song Woo Choi, but I don't think he's really that good. And not only that, but Julian Erosa got knocked out in both of his last 2 fights.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Ramos is going to probably knock him out in the first round.
This one seems like a setup fight. Just like the first fight. I think the Muhammad Usman is also a setup fight too. It's kind of like throwing the chicken to the wolves, whatever analogy you want to use.
I'll give Erosa some credit because like sometimes he has like underrated moments, and he's actually shown like that he's pretty good in certain moments. But then there's moments where he's getting knocked out by Sung Woo Choi, and it's like, yeah, I can't pick him.
Yeah. Next fight up, we got Kurt Hollowball versus Trey Ogden.
And Kurt Hollowball is really good. I really like Kurt Hollowball. I really like his boxing. He has crisp hands, crisp boxing. He's got good power, and he's also got really good grappling. Yeah. He's a good wrestler. But what I really like about his grappling is his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, his jiu-jitsu is amazing, man.
He has really good jiu-jitsu, good counter wrestling and scrambles.
And then whenever he transitions to one submission to the next, it's so smooth. Yeah. Like, you look at him like, yeah, that's a vet in there. You can tell he's been training this almost his whole life just to do, like, some of the things, it doesn't even look like he's going to get into another. It looks like he's about to, the other guy's going to scramble out. And I'm pretty sure it was his last fight that he fought. He literally transitioned to 3 or 4 different submissions. Bang, bang, bang. And dude had to defend each one, and he couldn't. The last one, I think he ended up choking him out with the last the last transition he hit him with. So it was a fun. I'm not huge into grappling, and I'm a little bit biased, but if it's stuff like that, you're trying to go for the finish, you're trying to get these submissions, that's what makes it exciting, because it's like, wow, you don't see those kind of things, especially nowadays.
Yeah, and Trey Ogden, on the other hand, to me, he hasn't been really as impressive as of late either. And what I've seen more of him is he likes to grapple. I haven't really been impressed with him on the feet. But Hollowball, on the other hand, has shown really good boxing, crisp boxing. So I think on the feet he's going to have the advantage. And then I think he has good enough wrestling, good enough jiu-jitsu to be able to defend on the ground and possibly even maybe even grapple against Hollowball. Against Ogden, and offensively grapple against him and win that way too. I think he's just better than Ogden in every way.
Just like the Cody fight, they were also on the same. They were on the same Ultimate Fighter, him and Hollowball, and Hollowball was like the other veteran in there, and I really see like that gas tank probably going to be coming into effect later on in this fight.
Yeah, for sure.
Next fight we got Fernando Padilla versus Luis Puello. And Puello has, to me, I think he has better hands than Padilla. And Padilla, like, a lot of these fights is like, oh, this guy looks pretty good and this guy's a little and I think this is the same thing with this Padilla. He needs to prove himself to me. He needs to go out there and put in some work. Because, like, I could see his potential as well. I'm not going to sit here and trash him like he's a worse guy, but compared to Luis Puello looks way more like technical. He looks faster. He looks more poised. So if I'm going based off of what I've seen in the competition he's fought, I got to give it to Luis Puello.
Yeah. And another thing with Padilla, he lost his last fight to Kyle Nelson. I say this a lot in a lot of these predictions, but I don't think Kyle Nelson's all that good. And sometimes it comes down to those types of things. You just got to look at who they beat, who they're losing to, and just compare them. And not only that, but I believe I found Luis Puello is a national champion boxer in Peru.
Oh, really? Yeah. I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
He's got crisp boxing, and we've seen in his MMA fights that he's got crisp boxing and kickboxing too. He's got good kicks.
That's what I was saying. He looks more technically sound than Padilla. Like I feel like he chooses his shots. A lot of these MMA fighters, they just throw shots to see if they work. Yeah. But he seems like the type of dude that really tries to set up certain strikes, body shots, everything all around.
Yeah,
sure.
He has really crisp boxing. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Zalal. I think he's going to get a late first round TKO.
Yeah, I can agree with that too. Next fight, we got Billy Quarantillo versus Youssef Zalal. And this one is definitely like, if Billy loses this one, he needs to like take a step back and fight some real bums. Because like, nothing against Youssef, because he looks great too. But Quarantillo just doesn't show great stand-up once again. Like, it's another fight where the one guy just has a much better stand-up, a bigger presence, and Youssef looks strong. He looks like a strong guy, and Quarantillo, I don't know if he'll be able to handle, even if Youssef does go for the takedowns, because he showed that he can get pressure against grappling and with the wrestling, and show that most of his fights, I believe, were also by decision, but it doesn't matter because in all those fights we've seen, he was pretty dominant in all those fights.
Yeah, and Quarantillo, a lot of the time, his way to win is normally with the grappling, and Zalal fought Ilia Topuria, where Topuria was grapple heavy in that fight, and Topuria couldn't really do much to him on the ground. Like, he was dominating him on the ground, but he didn't really get any close submissions. He wasn't really landing any like crazy ground and pound. And Topuria is a really good grappler, so if he's able to survive on the ground with a guy like Topuria, I'm sure he'll be able to survive on the ground and possibly not even get taken down against a guy in Quarantillo. And like you said, Zalal is a much better striker. So I'm going to go first round KO from Zalal.
I'm going to go with decision Zalal on that one. I don't think that one's going to be a KO. I think that he's just going to ride it out, slow him down, and probably just win off of points. Our next fight, we got Peyton Talbot versus Cameron Simon. And honestly, out of all the fights on here, like of upcomers and people in prospect, this is probably the one you should really look out for. Peyton Talbot, his striking is amazing. It's impeccable. His 1-2 is like his special, is literally just a jab straight. And he knocks so many people down with that. It's so fast. And even all around, he can kick, he can do just about everything. But his boxing and his straight up striking is really good, but his grappling is a little bit sus, and Cameron Simon's more all around. So, but I'm telling you, Cameron Simon, he can definitely sleep him too. He has some power, and if he, what I've seen the cons of Peyton, he leaves his chin open. He does the 1-2, and he tends to put his hand up instead of put him down instead of putting him up. And if Cameron Simon notices that and he reads that, he can probably hit him with an overhand or like a check hook and just sleep him. So this one's interesting because I really feel like this one's going to be finished. There's no way this one's going to be finished. They're going to be, especially the way Peyton fights. I really like him.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but I'm going with I'm going with my gut feeling.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with my gut feeling because this fight is so hard to pick. Honestly, like looking at their highlights, looking at their fights, looking at their records, both guys are definitely gonna be future prospects in the UFC,
for sure.
and both guys are very skilled. But I'm just gonna go with my gut feeling, and I think Simon, coming off of a loss, he's gonna have a chip on his shoulder, and I think he's gonna take it to Talbot. I'm gonna go with Cameron Simon.
This is one of my hopeful picks again, and here I go again. I'm gonna hope Peyton Talbot knocks him out in the second round. I think that's what he's gonna do. First round will be like a filling out process, then he's gonna catch him in the second round.
Okay. Next fight up the card: Edmund Shabazian versus AJ Dobson. Now, Shabazian, I've always been a fan of Shabazian. I like his striking; he's really good. And there was at one point in time where Shabazian had a lot of hype behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And now we see that Shabazian's not that good after all. His grappling is very lackluster, and but his striking is really good. But AJ Dobson, I think his advantage in this fight, especially, but what he's really good at is his grappling. He's a very strong grappler, and he's very physical, very aggressive, and on the feet he has a lot of power and he's explosive.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's good enough to land a shot, or at least land a really clean shot on a guy like Shabazian on the feet. I think Shabazian has too good of footwork and is just too good in general on the feet for Dobson to do much to him on the feet. But on the ground, I can't trust Shabazian. I just can't trust him on the ground. And AJ Dobson is a big presence in the octagon. He's a big, strong dude that has very, very good wrestling. So I'm going to go with AJ Dobson.
Yeah, this one's tough for me too, but I feel like if Shabazian's able to stand up and keep it standing, he could also probably just win off of points.
Mm-hmm.
That dude, I don't know if I've seen him get knocked out, AJ Dobson. I don't believe he is.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I don't think he has. So we got to see if he's able to stand and eat them shots. I'll give it more to AJ because then he's going to be able to pressure him and take him down. But I feel like Edmund Shabazian could have a chance, but my gut's telling me AJ Dobson by unanimous decision.
Yeah, me too.
And then for our co-main event here, we got Carl Williams versus Justin Tafa. And the first thing I'm going to say is a lot of these is like striker versus grappler or mixtures. Some guys are some all around. This one's just like that. Justin Tafa, strong, will, like reminds me of like a Derek Lewis or you know how they go in there just to knock the dude out. But then we got Carl Williams. He's a little bit more fit. And you know how I feel about the fit fighters against fat fighters. He's not as fit as, you know, Muhammad Usman, but he's a little bit more. He's not as flabby as Justin Tafa. Yeah. But and he also, one of his fights, I believe it was the Dana White Contender Series. He fought a wrestler that he was a D1 in college for Penn State. So, and he out-wrestled him. So that shows that Carl Williams is very, very strong, and he fought that dude on 10 days notice. So it wasn't like it was just out of nowhere. He had that ability already on him. So if he's able to grab Tafa, which I think he probably will, I'm praying that he don't. Just like the Tuivasa fight last week. If he grabs him, I think it's just gonna be a forever time on the ground for Justin Tafa.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. If he can repetitively take Tafa down, then yeah, I think he wins. But if he can't repetitively, if he can only take him down a few times and Tafa gets back up, I think Tafa's gonna knock
his ass out. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm gonna go with Tafa. I think he might get taken down maybe a few times, but I think he's gonna be able to find his way back up to his feet and just and find his shots on the feet and get a knockout. I'll say a second round knockout.
I pray it's Tafa, but my gut's telling me Carl Williams. I think he's just so strong. I think and he's taking some big dudes down. He originally came from a smaller weight class, from light heavyweight, I believe, but he got up there and he looks just as strong, just like Jailton Almeida. He's just a strong ass dude. And you seen what Jailton Almeida did all to those fat guys. The biggest thing is that Williams doesn't have a huge finishing ability. So I kind of agree with you there whenever you're saying that if he gets him down and Tafa's able to get up, I think it's possible for Tafa to just get him late in the rounds, hopefully. And I think if Tafa does win, he most likely would win in the beginning of the fight.
Yeah.
And with Williams, he's going to win. I'm choosing Williams decision, unanimous decision. The final fight, the main event, we got Amanda Ribas versus Rose Namajunas.
I can't wait for this one.
Nah, in all honesty though, I really hope Rose Namajunas, she comes back, and it's mainly because she looked better in her lighter weight class. Her hands look good, but she broke her hand in her last fight, and she looked good, but I think it's the weight. She looks a little bit chubby. No offense. I hope I'm not hurting your self-esteem, but she looks a little chubby. She don't look as fit, but she has great hands. And Amanda Ribas, she leaves herself very open. She fought I forget the lady's name, but whenever she was fighting her... Pinheiro, thank you. When she was fighting Pinheiro doesn't really have the most technical strikes. She's a hook heavy, wild, put pressure on you, and she was getting tagged up. Rose Namajunas has way straighter striking, much better boxing. Some of the best boxing, in my opinion, in women's MMA, probably of all time. Obviously, you can give Whaley in there, Amanda Nunes, but Rose is one of the best boxers of all time for women's MMA. So I got to give it to her. I think she's going to piece her up. I don't think Amanda Ribas is going to be able to take her down. And if she does, we've seen Rose able to get back up plenty of times against stronger grapplers than Amanda Ribas.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if Amanda Ribas is getting tagged up by Pinheiro like that, I'm not trying to talk down on Pinheiro, but I do think Rose is better than Pinheiro. So if she's getting tagged up by Pinheiro like that, I think Rose is going to tag her up too. I don't know if she's going to knock her out. I'll say a decision. So yeah, I'm going with Rose.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up for the predictions. Thank you for joining us at one of the most anticipated fight nights of this year. We appreciate you guys coming. I'm Nate.
I'm Elijah.
Thank you for joining our channel. We're the MMA Bros. Have a good night.